Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this episode, I kind of wanted to elaborate on a optional feature that I have added to all of my boats nowadays. I recently did a video on all the different features that I add, optional features that I add to my Phoenix boats when I order them. But this one in particular, I feel like I needed to do another video kind of elaborating on it because I think it's such an important tool, especially for tournament fishing, and also engine maintenance. So what we've got here at the helm is my Smartcraft gauge. Now there's different Smartcraft gauges that you can get. This one right here is pretty basic, one that does RPM, it does hours, and also fuel consumption. And those are really the three things that I really care about when it comes to my Smartcraft gauge anyways. When I got it, I was like, man, I've heard a lot of people, talk about how much they love their Smartcraft gauge and how helpful it is. But I really... the main thing that they were talking about was the fuel consumption, feature on there. And I was like, well, I already got a gas gauge. I don't need to be spending, $500 or whatever it is to put Smartcraft on there to monitor that, right? Well, then I started to realize that on most of my boats, and this is different for each boat that I have, obviously, but on most of my boats, the old analog gas gauges, fuel gauges, aren't that accurate. In fact, a few years ago, I had a situation where I'd have my neighbor come get me on the water because I ran out of gas for the first time in probably over a decade. And I thought I had enough gas. I had like a quarter tank and I was heading back from the dam here on Chickamauga. And I was like, that should be plenty because I was only on a half tank to get up there. But as I'm running, I can literally on that last quarter tank see the gauge, going down super fast. So it seems like that last quarter tank, things go pretty quick. But anyways, so Smartcraft does three things for me. Again, hours. So the engine hours, which is super helpful for knowing exactly when you need to do engine maintenance. As you guys know, I do all of my own engine maintenance, change the oil, fuel filters, oil filter, lower unit fluid, all that stuff I do myself. Mercury makes it really easy with their new 4-stroke V8s to do all that maintenance yourself, save some money, and just be more in tune with your engine. But I end up doing my maintenance around 50 hours instead of the recommended 100 hours. That's just because I'm OCD, and tournament fishing, I feel like you put more wear and tear, you're running the engine more hot and things like that. So I like to stay on top of my engine hours, and engine hours go pretty quick when you're fishing tournaments. So, I've been in situations where I had to change it at a tournament because I didn't think that I'd be using the engine as much as I did, and we got too close to 100 hours. So anyways, having your engine hours on Smartcraft so you can keep track of that, very, very important, especially if you do your maintenance yourself. The other thing is the RPM, gauge on here, more accurate representation of the actual RPMs that you're using. And I generally don't even pay attention to that for most of the year. But when I'm breaking in my engines for the first time, those first 2 hours, keeping track of your RPM, your RPMs in general is very, very important, and fluctuating between different RPMs, especially in that first hour, super critical. So having that gauge to tell me exactly what my RPMs are, very important. But the main thing that I want to talk about today with this is fuel consumption. Having this Smartcraft gauge to reset it for every tournament day, fill up my gas tank all the way in this, and then reset that gauge. I know exactly how much fuel I'm using. So if I'm making a specific run, say for instance, last year I was fishing Lake of the Ozarks, I was making a 60 to 65 mile run each way. And with my Smartcraft gauge, I could tell exactly how much fuel I still have left, how much I've used and how much I have left in my tank. So that first day making the run up to where I was fishing, I could see that, okay, I used, let's say, I forget what it was, but let's say I used 20 gallons. Okay, which probably wasn't what it was. It was probably closer to like 25 gallons or something like that. I've got about a 60-gallon tank in here because I've got the Pro gas tank, as they call it. So it's a little bit bigger gas tank. And so say I only use 20 gallons. I know I don't need to fuel up or shouldn't have to fuel up unless it's like a crazy run on the way back, which Lake of the Ozarks, if you fish there, you know it can be. But under the same conditions, should be perfectly fine because I still have about 20 gallons left. This is just an example. But that gauge and knowing exactly how much fuel I'm using has helped me so many times. Again, the regular fuel gauges on these boats, the analog ones, do not work all the time. And they're not super accurate, especially in my experience, the last like quarter tank. So having Smartcraft to tell you exactly how much fuel you're using, super important. So if you guys are the type of anglers that, make long runs or are not afraid of making long runs, this is an extra that if you're debating on whether or not you need it, this is one I would highly, highly suggest. You don't need to get anything fancy. You don't have to get the most expensive Smartcraft system, but that little gauge right there has really helped me out and allowed me to really make good decisions out on the water and also off the water for maintenance too. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, drop a comment below. Other than that, make sure you like, share, subscribe. I'm going to see you out on the water. And also make sure that if you're installing any of anything Smartcraft related or anything on your bass boats, if you need some rigging done, check out bassboatelectronics.com. They are the one-stop shop for everything bass boat related. So thank you guys. I'm going to see you out on the water. Oh, and trust the process.